argument that those who get the big money are in some sense more equipped, more skilled, it's just not true. It's just an attempt to make it reasonable, because it is fundamentally so unreasonable that you have to come up with these kinds of thinly, quickly developed rationale. Here's another way to get at it. In ancient Egypt, Pharaoh had the amount of money that Mr. Bezos did. But you know something? His explanation was that God had chosen him to be the Pharaoh. There is a greater honesty in that craziness than in the effort in modern culture, which is so focused on labor, to try to tell the person working for you for $10 an hour that the reason that person can't have a decent life.
Job comes in is we have a lot of issues where, addicts take things to try to get money to buy more drugs,
North side is more like upper class snobs. South side, fucking ghetto. You got the white ghetto and you got the black ghetto. The cops look at the south side like trash, like we don't matter.
That person can't have a decent life in order that you have $150 billion, which is more money than many countries have. Capitalism produces extremes of inequality. That is a terrible flaw in the system which no amount of justification could ever excuse.
The argument that I usually hear is, the person is more confident to make important decisions that not everybody else wants to make. He or she has more expertise. Therefore, just like in a hierarchy of the animal kingdom, the strongest gets the biggest piece of the pie. It should be applied to the same way in our social system.
Yeah, I love the analogy with the animal kingdom and hierarchy in the animal. One kind of society prides itself that it has gotten beyond animals. It tells you something about a society that is so destroyed, so poor in its morality, that it looks to the animals as a model for what they ought to do. It's evolution in reverse. We also have demonstrations of people who have become billionaires who are clearly unqualified. In the United States, we're currently led by a president who is a billionaire and has proven to us over and over again that being smart has nothing to do with being a billionaire, that billionaires are capable of doing some of the grossest, stupidest, ignorant, you name it. Only now it's in a position that's really very dangerous for us. The argument that the people who are rich somehow do more has always been the elite schools in the United States, where the children of the rich who were there because they were the children of very wealthy people. They weren't the smartest people in the room, in their school. The only ones who might have claimed that they were the smartest in the room were people like me, who got there even though we didn't have any money, even though our parents had no income, because we performed well on the tests.
People aren't striking because they don't feel like paying rent. People are striking because they can't pay rent. They can't.
But to many of those who collect rent payments, the strikes represent a real economic threat.
To me, it's reckless and it is potentially damaging to the economy.
This is all done in a tracking system in which those who are the richest get the majority of positions. Are there a few people who are not rich who can climb in? Yes, there always are a few. But the argument that those who get the big money are in some sense more equipped, more skilled, is just not true. An attempt to make it reasonable because it is fundamentally so unreasonable that you have to come up with these kinds of thinly, quickly developed rationale.
Do the response of governments go far enough to address this crisis? The
Federal Reserve is pumping trillions of dollars into the economy. Here's the fundamental problem. This money is being given employers. Very important to understand. Large employers, medium employers, small employers. The problem with our economic collapse, the decisions made by employers is what got us into this mess. It is bizarre to respond to the failure of the decision-making apparatus of capitalism by giving untold amounts of money to the same decision-making apparatus. That means you have learned nothing. The current collapse of capitalism in the United States is the third crash of capitalism. In the spring of 2000, we had 2008 and 9, we had what came to be called the subprime mortgage. We are ready and we can overcome it, which we've done, or we aren't ready and we can't overcome it. But this crisis is at least as much a result of the vulnerability of capitalism, of the failure of our economic system, as it is the result of whatever this time triggered. It's the difference between a trigger and a collapse. And now we have the corona crisis. It's interesting that the people who want to defend capitalism always name the crisis for something that started it. Capitalist system is a kind of pure victim. This is, if you pardon my crude English, what we call here bullshit. It is nonsense. Let me explain. The dot-com crisis happened because the stock prices of dot-com companies were crazy. These were companies who had never made any profit, but whose stock price was very high. Was this the first time that the stock market had stocks that were irrationally high? No. That's at least 3 centuries old. The price of tulip in England in the 1720s was too high for the market. Same thing in 2008 and 9. We have had periods of time where significant numbers of people borrowed money to buy homes, mortgages, which they then could not.
Money supply increases in the hands of people, whereas the production of goods and services is rolling back. That could lead to inflation or hyperinflation. And if you give it to local people, it will go into unproductive hands. Could you address these two arguments? A, whether hyperinflation is coming soon. B, whether these policies are now going to increase not efficiency, but to the contrary, will diminish efficiency and productivity.
Giving money to people who are already rich, and an argument that this will eventually lead to production and jobs and income. That has a name in the United States. It's called trickle-down economics.
Told you, there's no trickle down. He's gonna do it. He's gonna explain it. The stuff that I can't explain. Come on, Richard D. Wolff.
Okay? Is it possible that that happens? Yes. But of course it depends on what the people to whom you give the money do with it. So let's give you an example. We know the answer. After 2008, huge amounts of money were given to businesses. Here's what they did with it.
Ta-da!
They bought back shares of their own stock in the stock market. That drove up the price of stocks, which for the shareholders was wonderful. And it was wonderful for the executives who did it too, because their pay is tied to the value of the stocks.